Today we talk about how to operate a gimbal and pull the focus at the same time as a self-shooter. To do so, I'm using the Crane 2S gimbal with the focus motor and wheel incorporated in the body and the TransMount follow focus system, all by Zhiyun. First of all, guys, I want to introduce you the settings and the special artist at my back, Barbara Monte. An Italian composer, songwriter, and music artist. So we are on the set of her latest music video called Je viens d'ailleurs.
Je viens d'ailleurs.
I never get it right. That's the title, Je viens d'ailleurs. We are in a homemade studio, quite dark. As you can see, the lighting setup is very easy because we have a special subject, a laser harp. And today Barbara is gonna play the music riff for us. We are gonna film it. So, musica maestro. What you've seen were a few clips filmed with the Crane 2S, this gimbal, and the TransMount follow focus system by Zhiyun. And first of all, I want to say thanks to Zhiyun for collaborating with me once again. As we're talking about focus today, I want to explain why pulling the focus is very important in video making. It's a great technique to shift the attention of the viewer from a subject to another. The video maker, in this case myself, I have the power to make you watch what I want you to watch when I want you to watch it. It's key for storytelling because as a director and filmmaker, I can control what you are going to see. Today specifically, we are talking about pulling the focus on a gimbal, so while using a gimbal. Do we always need a follow focus system to use a focus on a gimbal? Actually, no, there are certain techniques that will help us to use a gimbal even without a follow focus system. Well, the first technique, very simple, is to set an autofocus on our lens and camera. Not very reliable in certain situations, we'll talk about it later. The second option is to establish the distance beforehand between your subject and the lens. So you're gonna set the focus and then you can move around the subject by keeping the same distance from the same subject. And this is an example. Okay guys, so I'm focusing on Barbara right now. You focus on the subject and then you just move around the subject, keeping the same distance. Barbara, you can do some action when you're ready. Go. So as you can see, the focus is always on the subject. You can just move around and keep in the same distance. And that's what we want. Then there is a third way to make it easier to use a focus on a gimbal without follow focus system. And that's by using a very wide lens, maybe a 14mm lens, and also by closing the aperture a little bit, maybe going to f10. So by closing the aperture, by closing the iris, less light will enter the sensor and more of your landscape or objects will be in focus at the same time. And that's because the depth of field will be deeper, so not as shallow as going maybe at f1.8 on your lens. By doing that though, the image will be darker, so you might need to compromise by adding more ISO to your image, which means adding more noise to the final result. So once again, not recommended. The last way to me is to have another member of the crew that can pull your focus remotely through a controller. But these techniques, of course, have some limitations. For example, you need another member of the crew, or sometimes you are not able to move around the subject because you're gonna lose the focus. So why is having a follow focus system useful? Well, first of all, by using manual focus is the best way to me to achieve the shot I need and I want. And specifically, I'm talking about when I'm a self-shooter. So when I'm on my own, I'm a one-man team and I do everything on my own. That's when it comes very useful. The second thing that comes to my mind also, cinema cameras like this one don't have autofocus or they don't have any stabilization. So having a gimbal with a follow focus system is a plus. Also, today's conditions, for example, today's shoot is the perfect example of when this tool comes very handy. The follow focus system, the TransMount, will allow me to keep the focus on the subject, but also will allow me to move around the subject and move further away or closer to the subject without losing the focus. So it's very important for me today to have this combination. Also, we'll be able to shift my focus from a subject to another. And you will see a few examples in a few seconds where I'm going to shift the focus from the laser rays of the harp to the subject, Barbara. So how does follow focus work, the transmount and all the follow focus? Very simple. First of all, I want to mention that without a follow focus system, it would be quite impossible or very hard to move your focus ring on the lens while you're using the gimbal, because the gimbal is balanced and you're going to struggle with the motors. For example, I show you, as soon as I touch the lens, well, all the gimbal is shaking, as you can see. So you're going to lose the balance and the gimbal is going to be useless, and you're going to defeat the object of having a gimbal in the first place. Let's talk about the TransMount focus system by Zhiyun. It's very simple to set up. It comes separately from the gimbal, don't forget, so you need to purchase it separately. It comes with a plastic chain that you're going to wrap around your lens, and also it comes with a motor that through a rod you're going to attach next to the lens. What you need to do after is to lay the motor next to the rubber chain. So you make sure the gear is matching, the two wheels are matching on the lens and on the motor, and that is actually ready to go. You need to connect your motor to the gimbal itself through a USB-C cable too. Once this motor is connected, you also have a wheel on the gimbal itself, on the body, through which you can actually pull the focus just by spinning this wheel. As you can see, when I spin the wheel on the gimbal's body, my focus wheel on the lens is moving, it's spinning itself, so it's basically shifting the focus. I also found out I can use the motor against the lens directly, so without placing my plastic chain around the lens. So for speeding up the process, I recommend that if you're using Canon lenses at least. So now let's talk about camera gear, the camera gear I'm using today exactly. I've got a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K. This is a cinema camera, as I mentioned. It doesn't have any stabilizer either on the lens or in the body, and also it doesn't have any autofocus. And of course I told you I'm using the Zhiyun Crane 2S with the TransMount follow focus system. The lens is a Canon 16 to 35 millimeters. During the shoot, I'm actually shifting the focal length to give you different examples. This lens can go down to f2.8, so it's a quite bright lens, but also with the speed booster before the lens, I can reach 1.8, so it's gonna be very sharp and very difficult to focus for me. Because by having a very bright lens, we also have a very shallow depth of field, which is gonna make it very hard to focus. But that's an artistic choice for today's shoot. That's my personal choice. First of all, to make you understand better how the follow focus works, and I really want to shift your attention from a subject to another. In terms of camera settings and recording settings, I set the camera to 25 FPS, 25 frames per second. The shutter speed is 1/50th of a second, and the iris is f1.8, as I mentioned. Also worth mentioning, my ISO is 1250, so quite a high ISO, but the camera can manage it very well. And before we start shooting, I want to give you a few tips. The first thing you want to do actually is to balance the gimbal. If you don't know how to balance the gimbal, go and check my video in the description tab or up here. You want to turn on the peaking, the focus peaking in the camera. Most of the digital cameras nowadays have it, so I definitely recommend to turn it on. The focus peaking is a tool. It's just some color lines around the subject that will be on focus. So it will definitely help you to understand what you're focusing on. You have different colors you can choose from. Today I chose the green because it's gonna stand out very well against the red laser rays. The third tip I'm gonna give you guys is, if you can, to have an external monitor, because first of all, it's usually brighter than the camera monitor. And the second important thing is that in this specific case, my camera monitor is hidden by one of the motors of the gimbal. Let's talk about the movements you can achieve with the gimbal. There's so many creative movements you can do, and I'm gonna show you a few right now. And without any further ado, we're gonna finally shoot some video. Let's get rolling. So now guys, I have the lens at 16 millimeters, so fully open. Barbara is gonna play in a second. You can see my hand here through the GoPro. The simple movement I'm gonna do is to go from a close-up, going backward. Barbara, you can play something. So as I go back, I pull the wheel back as well, and that will keep Barbara in focus, as you can see. And if I move closer to her, I spin the wheel forward, and she is still on focus. There she is. Once again, I go back. So this is something, guys, you couldn't achieve without a follow focus system, which is great. 16mm, there she is. Beautiful. So that's what happens when you use the follow focus. Now, let's try to get the rays from the side. I'm gonna close the lens a little to 24. This time I'm going in a circle, so to my right hand side, and also I try to move backwards. As I go, I spin the wheel back as well to keep the focus on Barbara. And I move to the other side. And this time I get closer, so I spin the wheel to forward. That's it, once again. Just a tip, guys, do the same movement 2 or 3 times. Nice. So now we actually found out a very nice shot, which is going from the side, and I'm gonna try to change the focus through the rays, and maybe from Barbara's face going on the rays and changing the focus that way. So let's try. Okay, Barbara's pretending to play, and I'm moving to the side right here and change the focus to her hand. As you can see, it's moving through the rays, focusing Barbara, and now going on the rays right there. So it's very cool effect that you couldn't achieve without a follow focus system. Okay, let's try to go through the rays actually. So I'm starting with a close-up of Barbara right here, and I'm going through the rays and pulling the focus. Ah, this is so nice. And moving back and pulling my wheel back as well. So as I go closer, I spin the wheel forward. When I move back to keep the focus on Barbara, I spin the wheel back with me. Okay, so now guys, Barbara is moving the hand from the 4th ray to the 2nd, and I'm gonna spin the wheel to change the focus. So Barbara, when you're ready, can you go to the 4th ray? Okay, and do the opposite, bye. Ah, that's it, so that's the movement. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now I'm focusing on Barbara. So as I move down, I'm focusing on the hands. So, vai Barbara. Woo! That's a shot. And di nuovo all'indietro. That's it. So, she's on focus now, the close-up. And vieni giù di nuovo, per favore. And hands. And that's perfect on focus. And as you can see, she is out of focus now. Great, thank you very much. As you can see, using a follow focus system is great. It's a great tool to take your videos to the next level. It takes a bit of practice, but that's the fun part of learning, and it will definitely enhance and extend your skill set. So here we are, we're gonna film another few clips and create a montage, a final montage, which we're gonna show you right here of the final music riff. You can find all the links of the products listed and used in this special video. You can find them in the description tab. Also, follow Barbara, great artist for great music. Go and check her out on Barbara Monte on YouTube and Instagram, and also go and follow Zhiyun. And I say thanks to Zhiyun once again for the collaboration. Hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. And Barbara and me, I'm going to say bye. See you in the next video. Ooh, baby. Perfetto.
Seems all good times come and go, yo.